We've all seen the funny home videos of weddings gone wrong. The groom faints, or the best man loses the rings, or the bride trips down the aisle, or somebody knocks over a candle, lighting the church on fire. There are a lot of ways that a wedding can go wrong. So if you're a pastor like me, you want to avoid any mistakes that you have control over. So here are 11 common wedding mistakes that pastors make. Making the wedding about you. Now, it's sad that I have to say this, but look at me. Look right here. The wedding is not about you. That shouldn't be a surprise. But I've been to ceremonies where the officiant tries to steal the show. They turn the wedding into a performance for their glory. They tell stories all about themselves. They try to impress people with how great they are. They tell lots of jokes to get lots of laughs so that people will think that they are funny. Now, sometimes they even do that at the expense of the bride and the groom. So they want the spotlight so that they can shine before everybody. Don't do that. That is not what a wedding should be. Weddings are all about God first and the bride and the groom second. Your job is to honor the Lord and shine the spotlight on the couple and their commitment to one another before Him. So don't steal the show. It is not about you. Saying the wrong names. Now, this one's awful, but it's more common than you would think. Pastors can do a lot of weddings over the years, and sometimes when you're reusing a trusty sermon, you might forget to check a name somewhere in the script. Other times, you may not know the couple very well, or your memory just blanks on you. It happens. So, however it happens, before you know it, you refer to the bride or the groom by a different name. And let's all hope that if you ever do this, it's not coincidentally the name of a bride or groom's ex or somebody they've had problems with. Now, if you do say the wrong name, hopefully you catch it. But I've heard horror stories of pastors obliviously using the wrong name until people in the audience shout it out to them. So I always triple check the bride and groom's names in my manuscript, and I spell them phonetically. So when I'm reading it, I don't butcher the pronunciation either. Now, another trick that helps is to repeat the name over and over and over before the ceremony just to get them stuck in your head. Forget to sign the marriage license. Besides performing the wedding, your primary responsibility is to sign the marriage license. Now, sometimes pastors are in a rush to get home and they get caught up talking to people or something like that, and they forget to sign the license. Whoops. Now, the last thing you want after a wedding is to get that phone call wondering where you went and asking you to come back. It's not the end of the world, but it's embarrassing and it doesn't look good for you. So never leave without first signing that license and ensuring that the couple and the witnesses have signed it as well. Not having a pen. Now, as we just said, it's important that everyone signs the marriage license, but sometimes you get to the moment to sign that license and everyone's like, anybody bring a pen? So you're stuck walking around and you're searching for one, or you're resorting to shouting across the wedding view, does anybody have a pen on them? Don't trust that somebody will remember to have a pen to sign the license. Weddings have hundreds of details, and a pen is a very small thing that's easily forgotten or left behind. Now, most of the time, I've found that people have a pen ready somewhere, but trust me on this one, have a backup pen in your pocket just in case. You might just save the day. The rings aren't ready. Near the end of the ceremony, the pastor asks, "May I have the rings, please?" An awkward silence fills the room, and everybody's looking around like somebody else is supposed to have them. Unprepared ring mistakes can happen in a variety of ways. Maybe whoever is supposed to have them loses them, or perhaps they have them, but they're still packaged and you got to remove some plastic off of the rings, or you're unable to even get them out of the box because they're stuck in there. Or maybe they even have the price tag still attached. Don't let this mistake happen. Always check before the wedding who has the rings, know exactly how they'll be given to you, and also ask if you can see the rings just to make sure they come out of the box easily and don't have anything on them that shouldn't be in the ceremony. Aicellphone rings. Now, it's bad enough when a phone rings in the audience, but when it's the wedding officiant's phone, it adds an extra level of distraction and embarrassment for you. So if you can, before the ceremony begins, ask people to silence their phones, and always, always, always make sure that your phone is on silent. That goes for your watch or anything else you have on you that beeps and boops too. Stumbling over your words. Now, occasional stumbles, they happen whenever people speak in public, but I have been to weddings where the officiant stumbled and bumbled throughout the entire ceremony with lots of ums, and trouble just saying the right words. Now, this is often a sign that the person didn't rehearse enough. Even if you're reading from a script like I do, you still need to practice out loud. Why? Well, first, it will help you get familiar with the ceremony so that you don't stumble all the way through it. And second, you're going to catch some sentences that they look good on paper, but for whatever reason, when you say it out loud, it's just hard for you to say, and it causes you to trip up. Whenever you find these phrases while rehearsing, you can rewrite them before you stumble over them in the ceremony. Rushing the ceremony. A common pitfall to any public speaker is talking just way too fast. It's usually because you're nervous. The adrenaline rush of standing in front of a crowd gets your heart pounding and your words begin to just fire like a machine gun out of your mouth. So slow down, Turbo. This is a wedding, not an auction. So if you're nervous, take a deep breath. Remind yourself to speak slow and clear, and don't rush the wedding. Allow each word to sink in, and don't be afraid of silence. Rambling on and on and on. I talked to a friend recently who had attended a wedding, and when I asked him how the wedding went, he said, "Brandon, look, the pastor gave a 45-minute sermon." And that was not including the rest of the ceremony. So the one thing that my friend remembered about this wedding was that it just took forever, and he was just bored to tears. Nobody wants to go to a really long wedding ceremony, and the wedding party doesn't want to have to stand up there for an hour or longer waiting for you to finish. Most of the ceremonies that I perform, they're within like 15 or 30 minutes, depending on what's in the ceremony. So keep things concise. Say what needs to be said, but don't keep babbling on and on and on and on. Remember, the wedding isn't about you. When you speak too long, like it or not, you're making it about yourself. So think about everybody else. Microphone problems. Always check your mic before the ceremony. Microphones can cause all sorts of technical problems, so check the battery to make sure it's fully charged. If it's a wireless handheld mic, make sure you aren't holding the bottom side of the mic where the wireless antenna usually is. That can cause static. If you have a headset mic on, make sure that the cables are tucked nicely down the back of your shirt and they're not rubbing on anything or rustling and tugging when you move. That can cause some pops and hissing sounds. If you're standing near a set of speakers, make sure that the microphone isn't picking up the sound from the speaker, or that you aren't walking in front of the speaker at any point with the mic on, because that's going to cause feedback. All this goes to say, always check the microphone. Always. Ignoring obvious mistakes. If there's an obvious mistake in the ceremony, don't ignore it. Say like a bridesmaid falls down the aisle, or you drop the rings, or you make one of those mistakes that I've talked about earlier, like saying the wrong names. You can't just ignore that. Instead, point it out in a funny way. Just don't do it at the expense of somebody else and hurt their feelings. A harmless joke will alleviate the tension in the room. People are going to laugh, and you can move on with the ceremony then. For example, say a bride or a groom is just clearly struggling with something and they're taking far longer than they should, like trying to get the ring on the other person's finger or something like that. You could simply say something like, "Hey, take as long as you need, it's your wedding." Or say something breaks during the ceremony. You could say, "As you can see, we spared no expense." And if you say a wrong word or you say the wrong name even, just say what everybody else is thinking. "Well, that was awkward. Let me try that one again." See, the key here is don't say anything if it could embarrass anyone, but do say something when there is an obvious, palpable tension in the room and you need to ease the situation a little. Addressing a problem is going to help lighten the moment. It might encourage somebody that everything's okay, because these things, they happen. And if needed, it might indicate the need for somebody to step in and help somebody out with something. So if you'd like some more help on avoiding these mistakes and many others, you need to check out my online wedding course called Perform a Wedding, a pastor's step-by-step guide from the first meeting to the big day. Now, I took all of the lessons that I have learned from the mistakes that I've made over 15 years in ministry, and I created this course just for you. I wish that I had something like this when I started as a young pastor. It would have saved me so many of these mistakes. Now, in addition to walking you through each step of the process of performing a wedding, from meeting with the couple for the very first time to the premarital counseling to planning the ceremony and finally performing the wedding. I've also included a whole bunch of the tools that I've created just for myself to make performing a wedding more fun and easy. So you're going to get a handful of customizable wedding ceremony scripts for different styles, different occasions, and that's going to save you hours and hours of writing them on your own. You're also going to get some tools for premarital counseling, questions to ask the couple when you meet with them, and templates to help plan the order of the ceremony, and a whole lot more. So if that sounds helpful for you, head on over to propreacher.com/courses and check it out today. I guarantee you it's gonna be worth the minor investment in yourself. You're gonna save a lot of time, you save a lot of mistakes, and if you don't feel it's worth it, I've got a 30-day money-back guarantee for you. So you got nothing to lose. So that's all it for now. I'll see you in the next video. But until then, let me know in the comments below, what are some of the worst mistakes that you have ever seen or even made yourself in performing a wedding?